Ah, come sit with me for a spell, my dear. I've been thinking a lot about loss lately. You know, kid, life has a funny way of leaving us with empty seats and quiet rooms. Sometimes it's the gentle absence of someone we loved all our life, and sometimes it's the sudden, deep ache of a broken heart. I remember a time when the world felt so big, and then one day it all shrank to a single missing presence. And it's funny how loss always seems to paint our days with shadows. There was a time not so long ago when I sat under an old oak tree, watching the leaves fall one by one. I thought, hey, why does the end of something always feel like the end of the world? But then, as I listened to the wind, I heard a whisper that said, my dear, each falling leaf makes room for new growth. And that, kid, is one of life's most enduring lessons. Loss isn't just the end, it's a quiet invitation to start over, to rebuild, even if the process is slow and the pain lingers. You see, sometimes the person we've lost leaves behind more than memories. They leave a mark that shapes who we become. And yes, it might feel like our hearts have been splintered into pieces that will never quite fit together again. I ask you, why is it so hard to move on? Well, maybe because every time we let go of someone we loved, we let go of a part of ourselves. And that's a weight that lingers much longer than we'd ever wish. I recall evenings filled with memories of a dear friend whose laughter still echoes in my mind. Each memory was like a soft glow in the darkness, guiding me through nights when the silence was too loud. I often wondered, how do I carry on when each step forward feels like a betrayal to the past? But then I learned that healing isn't about replacing what was lost. It's about honoring it, about finding the strength to smile at the stories, even when your eyes well up with unshed tears. There's a peculiar way the heart mends itself. The process is slow, deliberate, and a bit messy. No grand event announces that the pain is over. It simply fades away, like the last echo of a song that once made you whole. I remember asking myself, why am I like this? As I struggled with the absence of someone who once lit up my life. And over time, the answer unfurled itself quietly, because love was real, and loss was proof of a depth that only a full heart could carry. Loss, my dear, has a long shadow. It stretches out behind us, sometimes darkening our paths with memories too vivid to forget. But in that very shadow lies a reminder of what was meaningful, a testimony to every laugh, every tear, every quiet moment shared. When life leaves you with a void, don't be afraid to dwell in it for a while. Sit with it and let it tell you its story. Ask yourself the hard questions. What did this love teach me? How has it shaped who I am now? The answers might not be simple, but they're there, tucked away in the folds of your heart, waiting patiently to be discovered. I remember once when I lost someone I'd admired dearly. For days, the world seemed to continue in a monotonous rhythm, but inside me, there was a silence that was almost palpable. I'd find myself talking to the empty room, as if my lost love was somewhere among the familiar shadows. That conversation, as one-sided as it might have been, was my way of keeping the memories alive. And you know what, kid? It felt like a life lesson unfolding before my eyes. I learned that grief isn't something to run away from. It's a quiet companion that teaches us about resilience, about the worth of every moment we once took for granted. Every morning after, I would rise, not with the heavy weight of regret, but with a gentle determination to honor that love. I began to see beauty in the broken pieces of my heart. I learned that even when the person you love is no longer there in the way you'd wish, their impact continues to shape your days. Those moments of solitude became opportunities for reflection, an invitation to understand that grief and healing walk hand in hand. And in that understanding, I found a quiet kind of peace. Sometimes I'd catch myself in quiet corners of life asking, why am I still hurting? And with each passing day, I realized that the ache is not a curse, but a reminder that the heart has loved deeply. It is the tender footprint of existence, a sign that you once experienced something so meaningful that its absence leaves a lasting void. Yes, loss leaves a shadow that can seem overwhelming, but that same shadow is proof of a life richly felt. Now, kid, don't think that this reflective journey is meant to bring you down. No, it's meant to lift you up. It is the wisdom of time, handed down from one generation to the next, like a cherished family heirloom. You see, the process of healing isn't about forgetting the past. It's about learning to live with it. It's like a slow dance with time, where each step, however tentative, helps rebuild the mosaic of your heart. There were days when the memory of loss felt like a constant companion, an ever-present echo in the corridors of my mind. I'd find solace in the small things, a gentle smile from a stranger, the sound of a familiar song, or the warmth of the sun on my face. Each of these moments reminded me that even in the midst of overwhelming loss, life still held beauty. And as you journey through your own experiences of loss, you might find that these little sparks of light, however small, are enough to guide you forward. My dear, understand that healing is not a race. There's no finish line, no set time when you're suddenly whole again. It's a gradual unfolding, a process of rediscovery. The love you lost is woven into every fiber of your being, and while it may sometimes feel like a burden, it's also a blessing. It means you were brave enough to love deeply and wholly. And isn't that worth more than any moment of pain? So, if you ever find your heart heavy with memories, remember that you're never alone in your sorrow. Every person at some point has faced that long shadow of loss. And though the road may seem lonely and uncertain, it is also filled with gentle lessons, quiet strength, and the soft, unyielding light of hope. Stay with your memories, learn from them, but do not let them anchor you in grief. For even in the quietest moments of loss, there is a promise that you are still here, still moving forward, and that one day the sun will shine a little brighter on the tapestry of your soul. Keep these words close, kid. In your moments of quiet despair, let them remind you that life is a delicate balance of love and loss, heartache and healing. And as you carry on, may you always find the courage to embrace the full spectrum of your feelings, knowing that every tear, every sigh, and every heartbeat is a part of the journey toward a richer, more compassionate life. There are times when I wonder if the depth of my sorrow was simply a measure of my capacity to love. If we lose someone dear, it is as though a part of us goes missing, leaving behind an echo that never fades entirely. But then I remember that every moment of sorrow is also a moment of gratitude, a deep, lingering thankfulness for having known such love in the first place. And that thought, my dear, brings its own kind of comfort. You may find yourself drifting back to memories like cherished photographs, frozen in time, yet forever vivid. Remember those days of endless sunshine and laughter. Those moments were your gift, a legacy of love that continues to shine even when the person who gave it to you is no longer near. And in that shining light, there lies the power to heal, slowly, gently, one small step at a time. I want you to know, kid, that it's all right to sit with your sorrow. Don't ever feel like you must force yourself to smile or rush the process of healing. Just be. Breathe in the memories, the sweet echoes of love, and allow them to remind you of the beauty that once was. The long shadow of loss may fall across your days, but within that shadow, there is also the promise of light, waiting patiently for the moment you're ready to step back into it. Remember, my dear, every story of loss is also a story of life. And though it may bend you, it will never break you if you let it. For every tear that falls is a silent hymn of gratitude, a tribute to the life that was and the resilience that must be carried forward. Embrace this journey even if it feels too heavy at times, and hold close the hope that in every ending there is a new beginning waiting to unfold. So, my dear, keep your heart open and let the quiet lessons of loss remind you of what it means to truly live. There is beauty in every farewell, and sometimes the most profound wisdom comes from the whispers of what is no longer here. Trust in the slow, steady pulse of time, and know that every beat of your heart is a step toward healing, a step toward a life where, even in absence, love remains immortal. You know, kid, as the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, I began to understand something very important. It wasn't that the pain of loss ever truly left me, but that over time, it started to change. It morphed into a quiet companion rather than an overwhelming burden. I'd sometimes catch my mind wandering to the tiny details, the way the light fell through the trees in the early morning, or the sound of laughter carried on a gentle breeze, and realize these were echoes of the love I'd known. These echoes, my dear, became the stitches that slowly mended my heart. There were mornings when the sky was painted in soft hues of pink and orange, moments when I felt the warmth of the sun on my face, and for a brief, fleeting instant, all of my sorrow seemed to lift. I'd sit there, soaking in the tranquility, wondering, is this what healing feels like? And I'd answer myself with the quiet certainty that yes, it is a gradual opening up to the beauty that life still offers. Even when loss casts its long shadow, there exists in every small moment a spark of hope, a reminder that life is resilient. I remember sitting in my favorite chair by the window, the one that had seen many sunsets and shared whispered secrets of the past. I'd gaze out at the garden, the flowers nodding gently in the breeze, and think of how every petal, every leaf had once danced in the light of someone I loved. It made me realize that in every ending, there's a hint of a beginning. The vibrant colors of the garden were nature's way of showing me that even after the harshest winter, life finds a way to bloom again. And isn't that a lesson worth treasuring, kid? There's an old saying that goes, time heals all wounds. But I've learned that time doesn't so much erase as it transforms. The raw, aching sorrow may never disappear entirely, but it softens like a stone smoothed by the gentle caress of a river. Each day, when you wake up with the lingering memory of loss, remember that you're not being diminished by your grief. Rather, you're being slowly reshaped into someone with more depth and empathy than before. Think of it this way. Every tear you shed is a small tribute to the love that once lit up your world, and that love will forever be a part of you. Sometimes, on a quiet evening, I'd find myself talking aloud, as if the walls could understand, sharing bits of wisdom and soft humor with the empty room. I'd say, "You know, dear, grief is a curious thing. It doesn't simply vanish at the stroke of midnight. It lingers around, mingling with our memories, our stories." And in those moments, I felt less alone. I realized that each of us carries our own private collection of losses, whispered secrets of the heart, and that by acknowledging them, by speaking their names, we honor the stories that have shaped us. For every memory of laughter and every echo of pain, there lies a lesson that teaches us how to love better, to live more fully. It's funny, kid, how sometimes the harshest lessons come wrapped in gentle moments. I recall a chilly autumn day when the wind rustled through the fallen leaves, each one crinkling like a tiny memory. I paused to listen, and in that sound, I heard not only the sorrow of what was lost, but also a promise of what was yet to come. It was as though the earth itself was whispering, "Keep moving, keep loving, no matter how heavy your heart feels." Those words, spoken without a voice, reminded me that even in the throes of grief, there's an inherent resilience in the human spirit, a quiet strength that pushes us forward even when every step feels like an uphill climb. I used to wonder, why does loving someone mean risking such immense sorrow? And over time, I came to see that the vulnerability of our hearts is what makes love so wonderfully powerful. Losing someone dear doesn't weaken you, it expands you. It teaches you that every moment is irreplaceable, that every smile shared is a treasure beyond measure. And though the absence of that person may cast a pall over your days, it also leaves behind a legacy of love, a beacon that continues to shine through even the darkest nights. There will be days, my dear, when the weight of these memories feels unbearable. On those days, sit quietly with your thoughts. Let them wander freely through the halls of your mind. Remind yourself that every laugh, every tear, every whisper of a memory is a part of you, like threads in a tapestry, weaving together a story uniquely yours. It's in these quiet moments of introspection that you learn to see the beauty of your own resilience, the way you've grown from each encounter with loss. Remember the evenings by the fire when the world outside was silent and it felt as if time itself had paused just to listen. In those moments, I found solace in the simple realization that it's okay to feel lost sometimes. That feeling lost, that deep sense of mourning, was not a sign of defeat, but a natural part of life's journey. It was proof that you cared, that you loved deeply. And while that love may leave behind an ache, it also leaves behind a profound capacity to feel joy when it finally finds its way back. Sometimes I'd look at old photographs, faded edges and all, and each image would tell a story of days filled with laughter and love. I'd see the sparkle in the eyes of those who had long since departed and feel a bittersweet warmth. They weren't gone. They were simply out of sight, yet forever present in the corners of my heart. And that my dear, is how healing unfolds, not by erasing memories, but by weaving them into the very fabric of your existence, so that every smile carries a hint of past joys. I often tell myself, don't be too harsh on your heart, kid. It's okay to cherish the moments of pain as much as the moments of joy. Both have shaped you into the person you are today. It's in these reflections that I found a way to honor loss without being overwhelmed by it. I learned that you can hold on to the love that's gone, not as a chain that binds you, but as a gentle reminder of what it means to have a heart capable of feeling so profoundly. There will be times when you feel like retreating, like disappearing into yourself to escape the memories that sometimes come too close. But know this, isolation may seem like a safe haven, yet it's in connection with those who understand, with nature, with the quiet moments of your own reflection, where true healing begins. Reach out, even if it's just with a quiet nod to your own courage. Smile at the memory of that love, however painful it may be, because it signifies that you once experienced something beautiful and real. Imagine, my dear, the river that flows ever onward. It doesn't stop at rocks or branches. It finds its way around them, sometimes calmly, sometimes forcefully, but always moving forward. Your life is much like that river. The memories of loss may carve deep channels in your heart, but they also guide you, showing you where you've been and hinting at where you might go. In the end, it's not about forgetting the past, but about learning to navigate the present with grace and wisdom. There are moments, too, when you'll feel a surge of gratitude for having known the depth of love that once filled your life. It's strange, isn't it? How the very thing that makes you ache can also remind you of your strength, your capacity to love despite the risk of loss. This gratitude, however subtle, is a sign that your heart is learning its lessons. It teaches you that every moment of connection, no matter how brief, is worth the pain that might follow. Think back to the quiet evenings when the stars above shone like distant promises, twinkling gently as if to remind you that there is light even in the darkest times. In those moments, I'd whisper a quiet thank you to the universe for every laugh shared, every hug given, every silent moment of understanding. Those memories became a part of the gentle rhythm of my life, a rhythm that, despite the occasional dissonant note of sorrow, played on with a steady, enduring beat. And so, my dear, as you walk your own path, remember that every tear is a testament to a love well lived, every memory a quiet celebration of the connections that have touched your soul. Embrace your loss as you would an old friend, with tenderness, with care, and with an understanding that it has only deepened your capacity to feel. Know that in time, the ache will soften into a comforting presence, a gentle reminder that even in absence, love remains. Keep this close to your heart. Life is not measured solely by the moments of joy, but by the totality of experiences, the light and the dark, the laughter and the tears. Every fragment of love, every memory of loss contributes to the intricate mosaic of your being. And while it might seem as if the shadow of loss stretches endlessly before you, there is also a horizon filled with promise, waiting patiently for your next steps. So, whenever you find yourself overwhelmed by the silence or lost in the vast expanse of your memories, take a moment to breathe deeply. Let the rhythm of your heartbeat remind you that you are here, that you have a story worth telling. Speak softly to yourself, kid, with the same gentle understanding that you would offer a cherished friend. Even in the quietest moments, there is a chance to learn, to heal, and to grow. And as the days turn slowly into months, and the months into years, you'll see that the long shadow of loss is never a sign of defeat. It is merely a part of the landscape of your life, a part that, when met with kindness and courage, can help you find an even deeper appreciation for the beauty that remains. For every absence, there is a memory. For every silence, there is a lingering note of love that endures. Remember, my dear, that every beat of your heart echoes the laughter, the tears, and the whispered memories of those who have walked beside you. Their love, though no longer visible, still sparkles like dew on the early morning grass, a gentle reminder that life, with all its ups and downs, continues its tender, unyielding flow. Trust in this process. Allow yourself the space to grieve and know that in doing so, you honor the ones you've lost as well as the vibrant tapestry that is your life. Take these words with you, kid, and let them be your quiet guide when the weight of loss seems too heavy. For in every shared sorrow and every remembered smile, there is a lesson in resilience, in the power of love, and in the inexhaustible strength of the human spirit. And as you continue to navigate the winding path of life, remember that the long shadow of loss eventually gives way to a gentle, enduring light, one that shines as a testament to everything you have loved and all that you are yet to become. You know, my dear, there are times when the weight of your emotions can feel downright overwhelming, a storm that seems to come out of nowhere. It's in those moments when the floodgates of your heart burst open and every tear is a torrent that you might find yourself in the midst of an emotional breakdown. And it's okay to feel that way. It isn't a sign of weakness or failure. It's a part of being human. Sometimes the pain of loss and the heaviness of memory strike so deep that even breathing seems like a chore. Now, I want you to listen carefully, kid. When you feel like the sadness is consuming you, or when the anxiety of grief makes it hard to see the path ahead, understand that this intense feeling is not something to simply push aside or pretend isn't there. It's a signal from your heart that something deep within you is reaching out for understanding. And in those moments, you might experience what doctors sometimes call an emotional breakdown, a kind of deep, all-encompassing sorrow that leaves you feeling numb and yet acutely aware of every ache in your chest. I've seen it myself in the quiet hours of the night when the world is still. I'd sit alone, the silence around me almost too loud, and wonder, why is this pain so heavy? Why is my heart breaking like this? And my dear, I learned that it's okay to question. It's okay to sit with that confusion, no matter how discomforting it feels. Because an emotional breakdown, as frightening as it might be, is often the first step toward understanding the profound depths of our feelings. It's as if your inner self is trying to talk to you, telling you that there is more to learn about who you are and how much you can endure. When that heavy sadness grips you, remember that it's a complex process, a series of steps that aren't always easy to see. First, you may feel overwhelmed by a sense of numbness. It's like your emotions go on a brief vacation, leaving you feeling detached from the world. Then sometimes that numbness is followed by bursts of uncontrollable tears that seem to flow without reason. And in between, there's that terrible gap where nothing makes sense, a time when your mind races through memories and the shadows of what once was. My dear, that gap is like a dark tunnel, and it's perfectly normal to feel lost within it. It's important to give yourself permission to experience this, not by forcing yourself to smile or by pretending that everything's all right, but by acknowledging quietly and honestly that you are hurting. You might even start questioning, am I strong enough to handle this? And I want you to know that strength isn't about putting on a brave face all the time. It's about feeling your pain, embracing the struggle, and still having the courage to keep moving forward, even if each step is heavy. It's that bittersweet paradox of love and loss. The more you truly feel, the more you risk the sting of sorrow. But that same depth of emotion is what later helps you understand that healing isn't linear or swift. It's a slow and sometimes painful process. Now, when you find yourself in the grip of an emotional breakdown, there are a few things you might try to help navigate the storm. It isn't about taking it too easy or ignoring the depth of your feelings. Rather, it's about being gentle with yourself while also not shying away from the true power of what you're experiencing. For instance, when the tears come, allow them to flow. There's no need to rush past them. Each tear is a silent testimony to the life you once shared, to the love that was and still remains deep inside of you, even if it feels out of reach at that moment. In that vulnerability, rather than feeling weak, consider it a sign of your immense capacity to feel and to remember. There are moments when you might feel like your mind is betraying you, when the memories come unbidden and the pain feels sharper than ever. These moments are part of what we sometimes call a full emotional breakdown. It might feel like a tidal wave of regret and sorrow crashing over you, and during those times, it's perfectly all right to reach out for support. Whether it's talking quietly with a friend who understands, or simply writing down your thoughts in a journal, sometimes putting your feelings into words can be a first small step out of the dark. Your feelings deserve acknowledgement. They are not problems to be solved swiftly, but deep rivers that must run their course. It might help, my dear, to try and give names to the many emotions swirling inside you. There's the raw, biting grief of loss. There's the smoldering anger at circumstances that feel unjust. There's the lingering sadness that blankets your days. And then there's the hopeful, timid spark of healing that sometimes struggles to break free. Each emotion has its place and its time. Recognize that when anger rises, it's not a sign of falling apart, but a natural outcry against the pain inflicted by loss. And when sorrow tightens its grip, remember that it's part of your story, a sign that you have loved deeply. Processing an emotional breakdown doesn't mean you have to rush into feeling better. Instead, it means accepting that healing is an ongoing journey with bumps and unexpected turns. There will be days when you feel almost whole, and then suddenly, a memory or a familiar scent might bring back the flood of earlier days. In those instances, understand that it's all right if you need to pause, if you need to take a breath, or if you need a moment to simply sit with your emotions rather than fight them. Sometimes the process of healing can bring about another layer of anxiety, the fear that the sorrow might never fully subside. In those moments, I want you to remember, kid, that healing doesn't mean the pain completely disappears. Instead, it transforms. Just as a storm eventually gives way to a soft drizzle, the intense waves of grief will gradually become a gentle, persistent hum in the background of your life. And while that hum may always be there, it doesn't have to control your every step. There's an old saying that goes, "The brightest flame casts the darkest shadow." It might sound paradoxical, but it speaks to the idea that the more intensely you have loved and lost, the more profound your sorrow might seem. But within that darkness lies the very seed of a new dawn. When you accept that breakdowns are part of the grand design of healing, you also accept that they are not the end of your journey. They are chapters in your ongoing story of resilience. They are moments when the layers of your soul are being reshaped, sometimes painfully so, but ultimately to prepare you for a future where the echo of loss is woven with new threads of hope and understanding. Think of it like a piece of weathered wood that has been carved by time. The scars and grooves on that wood tell stories of past storms. And while those marks might seem like reminders of what was lost, they also show that the wood, much like your heart, has been strengthened by every trial it's faced. In each crack, there is a pathway for light to seep through. And even on days when that light seems dim, know that it's always there, waiting patiently for the moment when you're ready to let it in. When emotions run high and you feel as though you're on the edge of an abyss, remember that it's okay to seek small comforts. Maybe it's the warmth of a cup of tea on a cold morning, or the gentle rustle of leaves outside your window. These small tokens remind you that even in the midst of deep emotional breakdown, life continues, quietly, steadily. They serve as anchors that tether you to the present, allowing you to feel, if only for a moment, safe enough to navigate the turbulent seas within. My dear, it's crucial to allow yourself both the time and space to process your emotions fully. This isn't about forcing yourself to get over it by hard work or willpower alone. No, healing is a delicate balance between acknowledging your pain and allowing yourself to believe that the future holds more than just sorrow. It involves a slow, mindful progression, a kind of emotional alchemy, where the leaden weight of grief is gradually transformed into a gentler, more manageable form of remembrance. Keep in mind that it's perfectly acceptable to have days when you feel like you're taking 2 steps back for every step forward. Progress isn't measured by the absence of setbacks, but by the quiet determination to keep moving, no matter how slowly. And every tiny moment of self-compassion, every honest tear shed without judgment, is a victory, a sign that you are at your own pace, learning to navigate the labyrinth of your emotions. There might come a time when you wish someone would simply take away your pain to make it all vanish in a blink of an eye. But my dear, part of growing through loss is learning to make peace with the fact that some scars never fully fade. They just become less raw, less constant. And in that acceptance lies a profound strength. It's a strength that says, I have loved, I have lost, and yet here I am. It's not about erasing the past, but about carrying it forward as a cherished part of who you are. So if ever you feel that the sheer intensity of your emotions threatens to overwhelm you, remember that each moment of breakdown is also a moment of rebuilding. It is nature's way of inviting you to shed the old and, over time, to embrace a renewed version of yourself. Look within, my dear, at the spaces where the pain has carved its marks. In those places, you may eventually find resilience quietly waiting to blossom, like a tender bud emerging after a harsh winter. Take these words to heart, kid, as you tread your path through the darkest times. Learn to honor each phase of your emotional journey without judgment, understanding that both the breakdowns and the breakthroughs are essential parts of what it means to heal. There's no need to rush or to minimize your feelings. Your pain is valid and your journey is uniquely yours. In processing your emotions honestly, with a steadfast yet gentle heart, you find that healing, however gradual and winding it may be, becomes a testament to the infinite capacity of the human spirit to endure, to adapt, and ultimately to find beauty even in the midst of deep sorrow. You know, my dear, as we wander further down this winding path of loss and healing, there's another truth that I think is worth sharing. Beyond the aching emptiness, beyond the moments of sheer despair, there comes a gradual return, a slow, steady reawakening of the parts of you that were once dulled by sorrow. It's not an abrupt transformation, mind you, but a gentle unfolding. It's the kind of change that feels so real, so raw, that it reminds you that you're still breathing, still moving, even if each step requires a bit of courage. The process of healing is like tending to a garden after a long, bitter frost. The soil is cold and barren at first, and nothing seems to grow. Yet, with time and tender care, new sprouts begin to push through, fragile but persistent. In those early days, it might seem as if the garden will never bloom again, but gradually, the buds of hope start to show. And that, my dear, is the quiet magic of resilience. It doesn't come all at once. It builds slowly, moment by moment, through the act of living despite the pain. I've seen it happen many times. After a profound loss, you might find yourself in a sort of suspended animation, a state where every day feels like a repeat of the last, and the world seems to hold its breath. But then, sometimes out of nowhere, you'll experience a gentle shift. It might be in the form of a memory that brings a warm smile or a quiet moment watching the sunset that makes your heart stir, however slightly. These moments are like tiny seeds breaking through the hard crust of your grief. They remind you that while the shadow of loss may linger, there is also the promise of renewal. Now let's talk about the real work of healing. It isn't about simply getting over your pain as if it were an inconvenience to be set aside. No, true healing demands that you face every bit of that loss squarely and with honesty. It calls for you to unburden yourself of the need to stay numb, to let the flood of feelings wash over you and teach you something about what it means to be alive. When you allow yourself to fully feel the sorrow, to name it and to understand it, you create space within you for something new, a deeper sense of self-awareness and compassion that can only arise from having truly lived through loss. Some days are harder than others, my dear. There will be times when the emotional weight is almost too much to bear. I've sat through countless nights when it seemed like the darkness itself was pressing in on me. And in those moments, I had to remind myself that it's okay to feel lost. It's okay to admit that the journey is painful. The point is not to erase those feelings or to pretend that you're not hurting, but to let them be a part of your story. Grief is not a ghost to be banished, but a companion to be understood. A stern but honest teacher who tells you that life, in all its splendor and heartbreak, is worth every fleeting, beautiful moment. In this process of healing, it's essential to be mindful of the small victories. A day when you manage to smile through the tears, a moment when you remember a love that still warms you, even in its absence. These are the sparks that light your way forward. They may seem insignificant at first, but each of these fleeting moments builds up into a tapestry of hope, weaving itself into your very being. They remind you that life isn't about forgetting what was lost, but about preserving the essence of that love in the gentleness of your heart. Healing is an art, my dear, and like any art, it requires time, patience, and a great deal of tenderness toward oneself. It doesn't always follow the neat, linear path you might expect. Instead, it's more like a meandering river that ebbs and flows with the seasons of your life. Sometimes, you'll feel like you're back where you started, and that's all right. Progress isn't measured solely by the distance traveled, but by the way you learn to move differently, to approach the world with a newfound sense of empathy and understanding. I remember a time when the wound felt too deep, like an open chasm in my soul. Each day, I grappled with the relentless reminder of what was gone, and each night, the silence seemed to echo back the loss. But amid that desolation, I found that slowly, imperceptibly, the pain began to transform. It wasn't that it vanished completely. No, the memory of loss remained etched into the corners of my heart. But it began to coexist with other emotions. Gratitude for the moments of joy, a quiet pride in having loved so deeply, and even an emerging curiosity about the future. It is through this transformation that healing truly begins. And though the path is neither smooth nor predictable, it carries you forward. The journey of healing also teaches you about the intricate dance of self-care. This means not just tending to your physical needs, like eating well and getting enough rest, but also nurturing your emotional and mental well-being. It might be as simple as taking a quiet walk when the burden feels too heavy, or as profound as sitting with your feelings in silence, allowing yourself to process them without judgment. Sometimes, reaching out to a kind soul, a friend, a family member, or even a professional can be a crucial step in the healing process. Real healing happens when you accept that you can't do it all on your own and that leaning on others is a sign of strength, not weakness. It's important, my dear, to recognize that every person's journey with grief is unique. There's no one-size-fits-all formula, no secret recipe to make the sorrow vanish like magic. Instead, healing is a personal journey, filled with moments of insight and setbacks alike. There are days when every memory feels like a tender touch and the ache in your chest seems unbearable. And then there are days when the sun breaks through the gloom with such intensity that you're reminded of the beauty that still exists. Embrace both, the tears and the laughter, because they are all part of the mosaic of your experience. Let's keep it real, kid. Healing can be messy. There is no final destination where you can declare, "I'm done mourning." Rather, it's about learning to walk in the light and the darkness alike, understanding that even the deepest sorrow contains the seeds of future joy. It takes courage to let the pain in, to confront it head on, and ultimately to find a way to transform it into a strength that carries you onward. And though the scars of loss may never entirely fade, they serve as a reminder of your capacity to endure, to love, and to grow. So, as you move through the days of healing, remember that every step, no matter how small, is a testament to the resilience of your heart. Stay true to yourself, honor the memory of what you lost, and most importantly, allow yourself the grace to feel every emotion fully. In doing so, you build a foundation for a life that, while forever changed by loss, is enriched by the depth of your experience. And that, my dear, is as real and as beautiful as it gets. You know, my dear, as the seasons changed and the days folded into one another, a new chapter began to unfold, one that carried its own quiet battles and gentle triumphs. I started noticing that healing, like any great journey, doesn't have a neat beginning, middle, and end. Instead, it meanders through winding paths, sometimes unveiling moments of pure beauty amid the storm. I began to see that each day was not just about surviving the weight of loss, but slowly learning to live with it in a way that honored both memory and progress. There was a stretch of time when it felt as though every step forward was met by 2 steps back. I'd wake up with a resolve to embrace the day, only to find my mind drifting back to memories of long-gone laughter and voices silenced by time. In those moments, it was as if the past clung to me like a well-worn coat, comforting yet heavy, with its own bittersweet truths. I remember sitting on the porch one cool evening, watching the sky shift from a deep violet to soft hints of starlight, and I asked myself, how do I carry all this weight without losing myself? It was a question that echoed quietly in the space between my heartbeat and the rustle of the evening breeze. I realized, my dear, that the answer isn't found in wiping away your sorrow like a spill that can be cleaned up, nor is it about ignoring the deep grooves left by those you've lost. Instead, healing means accepting that loss and remembrance are intertwined parts of who you are. They shape you, inform you, and at times remind you of your vulnerability. Yet in that vulnerability lies a profound strength, a strength that comes from knowing that every wound, every tear, and every silent nod to the past is a testament to the love you once knew. And that love, no matter how dimmed by time, continues to serve as a quiet guardian of your soul. I remember a day when the weight of grief seemed nearly unbearable. The world outside was indifferent. A gentle drizzle washed over familiar streets, and the hum of everyday life went on, unaware of the internal maelstrom I was fighting. In that moment, I sat down with a cup of coffee that had long gone cold and allowed the thoughts to spill out like gentle confessions. I thought about the myriad ways love and loss had intertwined in my life, the friendships that had faded into echoes, the deep connections that left behind indelible marks, and the moments of laughter that now lived in the quiet corners of memory. And in that reflective solitude, I began to understand that every chapter of loss had its own weight, and every tear shed was also a sign of having been brave enough to feel. I came to see that healing isn't a process of erasing that weight entirely, but rather a gradual lightening of its burden. Imagine your heart as a field under a heavy snowfall. Each flake represents a memory, a moment of joy, or a shared embrace. In the beginning, the snow covers everything, blurring the landscape into a cold expanse. But as the sun starts to climb higher and days become a bit warmer, the snow begins to melt, revealing the contours of the field underneath. In the same way, as time passes, your memories, while never fully gone, begin to reveal the vibrant landscape of who you are now. There were nights when the stillness would be all-encompassing and the silence would remind me of every loss in stark detail. On these nights, I learned to sit quietly with the grief rather than shoving it aside. I allowed the feelings to come in full, raw waves, the anger, the sadness, the sense of betrayal that life sometimes so unkindly delivers. And in the quiet aftermath of each emotional storm, a kind of clarity would emerge. It was as though, by feeling every bit of the pain without judgment, I allowed my mind to slowly stitch the broken fragments back together. There were no shortcuts, no magic cures, just the honest, gradual acceptance that every emotion was part of the tapestry of living. I began to understand, too, that part of the healing process is to recognize the moments where things feel almost normal. There would be instances when the world didn't seem so heavy, when a warm sunrise or a shared smile with a stranger gently reminded me that hope still lingered. Those moments felt like tiny rebellions against the vast weight of sorrow, and they gave me the courage to keep moving forward. It's not about pretending that the grief isn't there. It's about letting those fleeting moments of light break through the darkness and show you that life, despite all its challenges, still holds beauty. You see, my dear, the process of healing is intricate. It involves acknowledging that there will be setbacks and that some days the heaviness of loss might feel like it's pulling you under again. But each setback, each moment where tears blur your vision, is not a failure. It's part of a slow and necessary unraveling of old wounds. True healing is hard-earned. It comes from facing the torrent of pain head-on rather than bottling it up in a desperate bid for immediate relief. And while that may sound daunting, every minute you spend embracing these raw emotions is a step towards a more honest understanding of your inner self. There's a saying I once heard, and I come to believe it's true. It is through our deepest wounds that we learn the most profound lessons about life. The heart, when it's broken, sometimes finds a way to heal in the most unexpected places. I remember a time when I hesitated to feel the full depth of my sorrow, fearing that it might consume me entirely. But in that tender vulnerability, I discovered that the heart is far more resilient than we often give it credit for. With each tear, with every moment of despair, it learned to protect itself better while remaining open enough to love again. Sometimes the healing journey is as much about rediscovering parts of yourself that you might have forgotten as it is about mourning what's been lost. In the quiet moments of self-reflection, you might stumble upon passions or interests that were buried under the weight of past sorrows. Perhaps you'll find solace in a hobby once long neglected, a walk in nature, the turning of a page in a well-worn book, or the soft hum of an old melody. Each of these moments can be a quiet celebration of life, a gentle reminder that even after loss, there is a vibrant, untapped reservoir of energy within you, waiting to be nurtured. Healing also means being honest about your own needs. Sometimes that honesty means accepting that you're not ready to leap into new adventures or that it might take time to rebuild your inner world. And that's perfectly fine. True healing isn't measured by how quickly you recover or how fast you move on. It's measured by the gradual returns of inner peace, the slow emergence of a smile, and the quiet realization that despite the shadows, you are still here, still capable of experiencing joy alongside sorrow. I learned that it's essential not to judge yourself too harshly during this process. There are days, my dear, when everything seems to fall apart and the storm of grief roars loud inside you. But in those moments, try to remember that each tear and every sigh is a necessary part of the journey. It's not about pushing away the pain and expecting it to vanish like mist in the morning light. Rather, it's about acknowledging that the heart's journey is full of valleys and peaks, and that sometimes the deepest valleys pave the way for a future filled with quiet strength. One of the most honest lessons I learned along this winding road is that healing is not a destination where the pain is completely erased, but a continuous process of growth and understanding. There is a raw, unspoken beauty in knowing that the intensity of your past emotions shapes a future where you are kinder, more empathetic, and more attuned to the fleeting nature of life. Each broken piece of your heart, over time, becomes part of a mosaic, a beautiful, if imperfect, picture that tells your unique story. And so, my dear, as you continue to navigate these winding paths, hold on to the thought that healing is both a journey and a testament to your resilience. Embrace the reality that loss has left its mark and that every step forward is a silent celebration of your ability to endure. Remember that it's not about forcing yourself to feel better right away, but about gently allowing the process to unfold naturally, one moment of vulnerability at a time. Keep close the memories, for they are the echoes of a life deeply lived. At the same time, give space for the new, a fresh sunrise, a shared smile, or even a quiet pause where you let your heart whisper its secrets. Know that each of these moments, whether laced with sorrow or touched by joy, is a vital note in the symphony of your life. And within that grand unfolding melody, you will find the strength to keep going, to keep learning, and to keep loving despite it all. This is the raw, unvarnished truth of healing. It's messy, it's unpredictable, and it requires all of your heart. Yet, it is precisely because of its imperfections that the journey holds its own quiet, undeniable beauty. Hold that truth close, my dear, and know that while loss may have cast its long shadow, it is in the persistent quest for light, however faint, that the true warmth of life is found. So now, my dear, if you made it this far with me, sitting quietly in the stillness, maybe feeling that lump in your throat or the soft sting behind your eyes, then let me tell you something important. You are already healing. Not because it doesn't hurt anymore, but because you've allowed yourself to feel. You've listened. You've faced the silence rather than running from it. That alone is an act of courage most people will never recognize in themselves. And I want you to know, I see it in you. The road ahead may still hold storms. There will be days when the ache sneaks back in, uninvited. There will be moments when the memories strike out of nowhere like a scent in the air, a song on the radio, a familiar corner of your neighborhood, and your heart will tighten as if no time has passed at all. But now, you're not bracing for impact. You're bracing with wisdom, with grace, with the quiet knowing that pain can't unmake you. It can only deepen the story of who you are becoming. So when that next wave comes, don't run from it. Sit with it. Let it wash over you. Let it remind you that you loved, that you lived, and that you were brave enough to keep going. And after it passes, because it will pass, you'll find yourself once again on solid ground. Maybe not the same ground you stood on before, but something new, something honest, something earned. I won't promise that life gets easier, but I will promise that you will grow stronger, wiser, softer, in all the right ways. And that kind of strength, the quiet kind that bends but never breaks, that's the most powerful force there is. So take a breath. Close your eyes if you need to. Feel the warmth of this moment wrap around you like a soft blanket. You've carried so much. You've made it this far. And now it's time to keep walking. Slowly, gently, bravely. The world still has room for your laughter. Your story isn't over. You're still here. And that, my dear, that is enough.